When you hear the word science, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For some people, it's all about hope and discovery. For others, it might just seem complicated. Well, today we're going to find out what people really think about science, and I think some of the answers might surprise you. Let's jump in.
So let's start with a question, just for you. Would you say you're a science person? There's no right or wrong answer here, but just think about it for a second. We're about to see how your gut feeling stacks up against what most people think.
First things first, let's talk about knowledge. When it comes to science, how much do we think we actually know? Do most of us feel like we're experts, or are we a bit more humble?
Well, it turns out that most of us don't really see ourselves as science experts, not by a long shot. But let's see what that looks like when we actually break it down into numbers.
Okay, so take a look at this chart. It really clears things up. See that big bar in the middle? That's where most people are. They feel they know some science. Only a tiny group says they know a lot, and a few more feel like they don't know much at all. So, for most of us, the sweet spot is feeling like we know a bit, but we're definitely not pros.
So, we've established that we're not all experts. But does that mean we don't care about science? Let's move on from what we know to how we feel. Is science something that gets people excited, or is it just, boring?
Wow, the answer here is pretty clear, isn't it? A huge slice of that circle says people are interested in science. The next biggest feeling is hopeful. Way down at the bottom, you see worried and bored. So even if we don't know everything, it's obvious we're curious and pretty optimistic about it.
Let's dig into that hopeful feeling a little more, because that's a big deal. Do people really believe that science is the key to a better future? Let's see what the data says about that.
And the answer is a huge yes. Look at that number. A massive percentage of people agree that science gives them hope for the future. Just think about that for a second. With all the problems in the world, the huge majority of us are looking to science for some optimism.
And this idea really sums it all up. Science is the key to solving tomorrow's challenges. This isn't just a nice saying, right? It shows a really deep belief that when we run into big problems, science is going to be the tool we use to fix them.
Okay, so if we're putting all this hope into science, what's on our wish list? What are these tomorrow's challenges that we really want science to take care of for us?
This table here lays out our priorities really clearly. At the very top of the list is fighting disease. Finding cures, better treatments, that's our #1 ask. And right behind that are two other massive challenges: dealing with climate change and figuring out food shortages. These are the really big ones people are counting on science to solve.
All right, for our last point, let's talk about something that can be a little confusing: the difference between science and technology. We say those words together all the time, but do we think one is more important than the other? Let's have a look.
So, this breaks it down pretty simply. Science is all about discovery, right? It's understanding how the world works. Technology, on the other hand, is what we do with that knowledge. It's the stuff we build, like our phones. And while we might notice technology more in our day-to-day lives, people get that you can't really have one without the other. All that cool tech is built on a foundation of scientific discovery.
So, let's do a quick recap of what we learned today. First, most of us feel like we have some knowledge about science, but we're definitely not calling ourselves experts. Second, our feelings about science are super positive. We're interested and hopeful. And finally, we're really counting on science to help us solve some of the world's biggest problems.
And that brings us right back to you. We've seen what most people think, but now it's your turn. If you could ask the entire world of science to focus on solving just one thing, what would it be? What's the #1 problem you'd want them to fix? Thanks for joining me.